And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our second live stream. Today, the topic is moving to Denmark. Welcome to Student Survival Guide. If you do not know what we are doing, if you do not know us yet, and you are watching this live stream, then Student Survival Guide is a platform that helps you to start your life in Denmark in the best way possible. You can find more information on our website, studentsurvivalguide.dk, and on our social media. But without further ado, today's topic to this live stream is going to be moving to Denmark. And today we are going to be answering most of your burning questions about how is the process of moving to Denmark? What kind of things should you bring? What kind of expectations should you have? And how easy or difficult is it to bring the dog with you to Denmark? More about that in today's episode. So for starters, I would like to introduce the team of Student Survival Guide. From the top left corner, I think you guys can introduce yourself, otherwise it's going to take a long time, right?
Okay, my name is Michael, and I'm the news correspondent.
Hi, I'm Denisa, and I'm the editor.
Hello, my name is Zaros. Together with Michael, I kind of helped to co-create this project, and currently, aside from doing a little bit from everywhere, I am a data analyst.
Madar?
I am Madara, and I am the social media manager of Student Survival Guide.
Hey, I'm Radim, and I'm doing something in the background with the IT, and I was creating videos back in the days when I was in Denmark. Michael?
And finally, it's Magda.
Hello, I work as a PR and outreach for communication.
Yeah, thank you. And finally, it's me, some Michael, who together with Yara made this project into what it is today, and hopefully into what it will be in the future. Now, one of the things that you might know about what we are doing in past weeks is that we are also trying to inform you, aside from all the things that we are doing on the blogs, also about what is happening in Denmark, the news that are relevant for you as a student, so you don't have to go to DR or other places which you do not understand, because Danish is a difficult language. And we are taking on a task of translating the news that are relevant for students and putting them all into one place. If you do not know about this yet, then go to studentsurvivalguide.dk/category/news, where you can read the recaps of all the previous weeks. And because we really love our audience, and because we love to give you guys some extra value, Michael is going to present you what happened over the past week, because we know you as a student, you're probably too lazy to read, so you just turn on the live stream, and that's fine. That's what we do. So Michael, what happened in Denmark over the past week? Give us the highlights, give us the brief.
So yeah, there are a couple of interesting things, apart from the Corona update, which we cover each week, that included the problems with AstraZeneca vaccine and some expert comment on the current situation. There has also been some political stuff, like election in Greenland, and a new restriction induced by some kindergarten that required the kids to have a corona-friendly lunchbox. And apart from that, a sad story from the end of last week is that the Duke of Edinburgh, the husband of Elizabeth II, the Queen of England, died. So let's start with the Corona update. Peter Eskilsson from Aarhus Universitet says the situation is under control, with around 500 to 700 cases each day. So that's good. It's a nice change from those 3,000-4,000 cases a day that we've seen in December. The positive percentage is around 0.3, 0.4, which is also good. That's the number that shows the ratio of how many tests were taken compared to how many tests were positive. Denmark is still making its testing capacity higher and higher. Now it's around 500,000 tests a day, and we're going to go up to 700,000 in May. The vaccination is
tests
a day. Yes,
a day.
A day.
700,000.
Yes.
What? That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of tests. Yes.
That's like what is it? eighth of the population every day? 700,000?
700. Yeah, that's like testing every eighth person.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess they will be hiring in those testing centers, right?
They do, and they are opening new ones all the time.
But you are working in one of those, so maybe for some internationals watching this, what are some prerequisites before you can actually get a job there?
Yes, well, I can only speak for the region Zealand or Shetland, but here you have to speak Danish. So that can be kind of obstacle with getting a job at a Corona test center. But otherwise, you don't need any prior medical education or experience. You just have to be service-minded. You have to be, you just have to smile, and you're gonna get a job. It's easy. It's not a rocket science.
Is there any prior experience in picking someone else's nose required in this job?
I actually don't do the nose tests. I do the
You don't do
proper ones, the PCR ones.
So if you enjoy in your spare time sticking things down someone else's throat, then this might be the best part-time job for you. And how much of a Danish do you need to speak? Like, do you need to be absolutely 100% fluent, or do you get by with
No.
just hi, open your mouth and?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to have like professional fluency. You just need to understand and be understood.
All right. Well, for anyone watching that might be interested, this is how it is. So please continue with the news.
Yes. The AstraZeneca is still on hold, and that is until the 15th of April, which is on Wednesday. Then Denmark is going to reevaluate, or they are now under process of reevaluating their position or their opinion on the vaccine, and that also comes after the European Medicines Agency, the EMA, came with a conclusion that the blood clotting and the vaccination with AstraZeneca is somehow connected. So we're going to see if Denmark is going to assess the vaccine's benefits are greater than the risks, or otherwise it's going to be postponed even more. Which is.
Do you have any update on the numbers of the cases that resulted in some fatal things? I think Yarrow has the numbers.
Yes, if I may jump in, so I can speak a little bit. I remember I saw the numbers that throughout Europe there has been 34 million people that got vaccinated with AstraZeneca, and out of those 34 million people, there was, I believe, last time I checked, 86 cases of the blood clotting, which is, I think in perspective, which is nothing. I think what's a little bit scary is that out of those 86 people that actually ended up having these complications, I think 22 died. So once you get it, the chances that you might have like a higher health complications are quite high. But on the other hand, the chances that you will get this kind of complications are minuscule. I think there's I really randomly checked, and I think there's a higher chance are on everyday basis rather than getting those.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, but that high number of dead people from those that actually got the complication is also given by, when you get a blood clot, there's very high chance you're going to die if you're not going to go to hospital right away. So that's kind of sad. But yeah, that's up to Sundhedsstyrelsen or the Danish Medicines Agency to assess the risks and the benefits.
Yeah, and we just got a really quick question that I want to answer, and that is whether you need to be vaccinated before you are coming to Denmark. And to answer that question, no, you don't need to be, but it is very much preferred if you are. And that is because for majority of the things that you want to do in Denmark, such as these days get a haircut or visit a restaurant or something, it helps if you're vaccinated. But also, if you can prove that you have a negative PCR test, then you can do whatever of those things. But if you get a chance to be vaccinated, then of course do it. But it is not required to cross the borders.
Yeah, I would also add that you can also have the Corona passport if you have had positive test results in the last 12 weeks, which is the last 3 months. So that also helps. Like, those are the 3 only ways how to get the Corona passport, which is going to be kind of the key to the open society and to the everyday life. Because one either has to be vaccinated and to be actually like finished with the vaccination, so both doses, or as Michael said, you have to get tested every 3 days. Yeah, the test can't be older than 72 hours, or you have to have had Corona in the last 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this update. So, what else has happened in Denmark over the past days?
Yeah, well, there was a kind of big scandal in one kindergarten in Sjælland region of Denmark, where there came a new restrictions that the children has to have something called Corona friendly package or a lunchbox. That means that the teachers can't help in any way or assist the children in any way with opening or eating the food, which is quite unlucky in the sense that, for example, if there was some kid that was 1 year old or 1.5 years old, and they couldn't open their cheese snack, they would just stay hungry, and that really started a storm on the social media.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That I understand, but the director of the concerned institution said that there was a misunderstanding, that of course there is no such thing as a corona friendly lunchbox. So that was kind of like an initiative of the staff of the kindergarten that just wanted to make the environment a bit safer, but it was very unluckily presented. So we just hope no such things are going to happen anymore. And also what happened is that Greenland, which is a part of Denmark, had an election, and the opposition party won. And what comes as a surprise after, I believe it was not since the 1978 that some other party than the ruling party until now won. And the opposition party is very much for independence and really for recognizing Greenland as an independent nation. So we're going to see what is going to happen, what's going to happen there. And
for those of you who do not know, Greenland is part of Denmark, right? Like politically speaking, even though they are pretty much very much away from Denmark, they are still dependent, especially with laws and taxation. So there is probably some ground for them wanting to escape from the kingdom.
They are not even part of EU. Neither are the Faroe Islands.
Yet they are part of Denmark.
They are part of Denmark, but neither Faroe Islands nor Greenland are part of the EU, which is interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and last but not least, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has died at the end of last week, aged 99, which came as a surprise. It was very suddenly. So yeah, we would like to express our condolences to the British royal family. And I'm giving my word back to Michael. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for the news. It ended on a bit of a sad note, unfortunately. I'm just trying to figure out what layout is the best for us to fit all of us into the screen.
And Michael, I would just quickly like to answer one question.
Yes.
Which came. Yeah, perfect. Yes, it is free. The only thing you have to is to log in on a website called covidresults.dk. And then you can just get all the tests for free, like all the PCR testing. So you're just going to get a barcode, and you're going to use that barcode instead of your healthcare card.
And I have one more question regarding this, actually. Maybe it might be interesting for some of our listeners. Can residents, I mean people in Denmark that are not residents, So let's say students who don't receive their residence permit just as fast, can they get tested for free?
Yes, they can. As I said, everyone in Denmark can get tested for free. If you want that quick test, you can just get a quick test at any time, and that is in most parts of the country that is free. The only way where non-Danish residents have to pay for it is at the airport, I guess. But as far as the PCR test, literally everyone, either be it someone who is Danish national or me as a Czech national without actually residence permit, or just some tourists just going from Sweden to Norway via Denmark, everyone can get tested here for free, and people are going to get a result within 48 hours.
Thank you.
So now we know that it is free to get tested in Denmark. That it might be one of the first things that you might need to know before you are moving to Denmark. What are some of the other things that you might need to know before you are moving to Denmark? That is the question of today's live stream. Now, one of the first things that we need to settle on from the very beginning, and that is to answer one simple question. Is it expensive to live in Denmark? Let's see. Magda, is it expensive to live in Denmark?
Well, I would say yes. Depends like what do you compare it to, like from which country are you coming. But I also think Denmark teaches you how to arrange your expenses, and I also think it teaches you how to prioritize your life a bit better than maybe before. So yeah, I guess all in all, I think for me it's if I compare my income and the money that I spend, it's cheaper than in my home country. But with prices and everything, yeah, of course, it's expensive.
So what are some of the things that you can save up on? Like, for example, academic books. You can save up on transportation by not buying tickets. What are some of the other things that you can save up on when you are living in Denmark? Radim, what are some of the things, or what are the extremes that you have went into when you were trying to save some money in Denmark? I remember that you have went 1 week for like 100 kronas or something like that. Could you tell us more about it?
It was 140 or 60, I don't know. But yeah, we were just buying super cheap food, which wasn't actually bad. It was pretty good. And then we tried to push it even farther, and we were even sleeping outside. So I was just going somewhere like in the bush, because we just agreed with a friend of mine that we won't sleep at home. And yeah, I could go home, but I couldn't sleep there. So I was just sleeping somewhere outside, and it was funny. I tried to push the outcome that I had like as low as it was possible. And we are also doing dumpster diving from time to time, which was funny, and the food was super delicious. I don't know. I would like to say that the quality was even better than in the stores in Czech Republic from time to time, I would say. And yeah, those are the ways, I would say.
There are ways to push it. There are ways to push the budget and to live very cheaply. And as you said, when you are sleeping outside, you will save up money, but at the same time, you will probably not have an address. And when you do not have an address, there comes the problem, because you will not be able to get a CPR number. What is a CPR number, Yara?
Well, basically, CPR number is the number that represents you as a person or resident. And for you, those guys that don't know, Denmark is, well, very organized and very now currently sort of like an online dependent country. So once you have this number that represents you, you can basically log into all the public services, from your home, and you can handle it, and you can handle everything. And well, so by this, I think by default we can agree that it's a really handy thing to have, and it is also quite prerequisite for anything in Denmark. So you cannot really get a job before you have this one. You cannot really change your address. You cannot really move away. You can get a bank account, etc., etc. So, well, even though we are coming to Denmark to study, it is not just to study; it's also to live. And CPR is the backbone of living in Denmark.
Yeah, and the prerequisite to get a CPR number is to have an address. So if you follow Radim's lead and you sleep on streets, you're very much welcome to do that, but that might be very hard to pass through the commune, because they probably need to send you some mails sometime. But sometimes they do not need to, because all of the things in Denmark are digitalized, and so is the mail that you are using to communicate with the government. So there is this thing called e-box that you will get to use when you are living in Denmark. But when we are in the question of moving to Denmark, I believe that Madara did some research regarding bringing a car to Denmark, so she could tell us a bit more about what is the process and how expensive it is. Or was it someone else who did the research?
Well, yes. It wasn't really me who researched about the car, so I think one of the guys can do that. But I did ask the community about this question, so it was one of them about the car. So maybe one of you guys can actually explain about it more.
Well, due to the fact that Yarrow is still driving on his Czech number plates, I believe I'm a more qualified person to talk about this topic. And I hope that no one from Skype is watching right now.
Perfect.
But to make the long story short, it is very expensive to bring a car to Denmark, and you are much better off just simply buying it here instead. And then that is namely because you need to switch from your own number plates to Danish ones. And to make this whole process, even though it is online, it is still rather complicated because you need to go through different inspections. As it is usual in Denmark, everything costs money, and this is no exception. You need to apply for a. Am I frozen?
Not for me.
Is it? Yeah. Does it? Yeah. Yeah, that's me doing it. I'm just awkward. And you have to get essentially a quote for how much the car is going to cost to register, because you need to have it registered before you can drive in Denmark. This, together with the fact that you need to pay about 150% of the market value of the car as a registration fee, makes it very unattractive to bring your car to Denmark. So while we are on the note of bringing things, while we are on the same, okay, there is a chat that we have where people are telling me that I'm frozen, and I don't know who to trust right now. But I guess
you are not frozen anymore.
Yes, that's great. Even though it was snowing yesterday, I don't know. That was a weird way to connect those two things. Yeah. But when we are talking about bringing things to Denmark, I know that Magda has a feature about bringing something else to Denmark that might be equally, if not even more expensive than the car. So please, Magda, take it away.
Yes, thank you. Well, I was doing the research to bring my dog to Denmark because I have a big dog that is adopted dog from the shelter, and it is very hard to track his how you say, like a birth, like where he was born. So it was extremely hard to try to find all the documents and requirements that I need to have to bring my dog. So in the end, I decided to leave my dog in my home country because all the paperwork, it was just impossible. So guys, if you would like to bring your pet, please make a research way in advance and make sure to gather all the paper, all vaccination, everything that you need to have. So yeah, this is the destiny of my dog. He's home. He's having a nice life. But yeah, I miss him.
So one of the things that might be helping is to have a dog with some paperwork as a background, right? Or at least make the paperwork before you are coming to Denmark.
Yes, exactly.
So the same like with your car, get your papers straight with your dog.
Yes, and change the license plate.
Just get a dog without a license plate, or just don't. I don't know. Just gamble. Life is all about gambles. Now we are supposed to tackle some questions from the chat. So one of the first questions that we have here is from Rodrigo. How easy is to get a work in a current situation to get the SU? To answer that question, let's see. Does Michael have an answer to that question?
Well, considering that we are still in partial lockdown, it might be quite complicated right now, but we are really on the way to open the society more, and all the restaurants are going to open again soon. At least we are hoping for that.
Yeah,
so
hotels too.
Yes, because right now it's it can be quite complicated for newcomers to get a job if they don't have either any connections or they can't speak the language, which is actually not needed in many places because everyone speaks English here. But it might be quite complicated to get a job without Danish if you are a newcomer and if there is Corona and many people actually, also Danish people, don't have a job. But yeah, otherwise it's, at least for, if you live in a big city, it's not that hard. I could imagine that, for example, I'm not sure how it's the situation in Horsens. Is it hard to get a job there, Yaro?
From my perspective, I don't think it's impossible. I think, well, assuming that you want to work as a part-timer in a restaurant, yeah, of course, with the current setting, it's impossible. Yeah. However, when it comes to us students with we have no real experience, we don't know anything. I think there's still quite a lot of opportunities, in the production companies, possibly in warehouses. So, and actually, just recently, I've been actually called like multiple times to some random warehouses. So, I think there is a demand, and well, at least I guess here in Horsens, with the current situation, there's not actually enough willing workers to work.
And one of the things that the Danish labor market and labor markets in general are shifting towards is the gig-based economy, and that is things like Wolt, Wait Here, and Hungry DK, Just Eat. So you can always sign up yourself to be a delivery driver. The one thing that you have to keep in mind is that these jobs not necessarily allow you to get SU. It is the situation with Wolt, where this, at least based on our research, it was not possible. Maybe in the future the laws will change, but that is also not very likely because the Danish government is not very happy about international students getting SU. So there is a very difficult topic, and we will tackle it in some different live stream. But we do not. Yes, Michael?
I would actually like to correct you a bit in a way that yes, you can get SU as a delivery guy for Wolt. But you have to make your own company to get your own CVR number, which is like your company identification number, and you have to file taxes, and you have to pay the VAT, and you have to do so many different things.
So easy, right? So easy. Just come and work and get SU, and maybe not. Maybe first make a company.
But what might be actually a good opportunity for people who come to Denmark and actually don't speak the language. I heard that those big store in Denmark is called nemlig.com, which is like a big online store for groceries. They're hiring all the time, either drivers or people for the warehouses, and you don't have to speak Danish. Yes, you're gonna work in a warehouse or you're gonna drive a van, but yeah, it's kind of easy, accessible job.
Yeah. And there is actually quite a funny thing that has happened recently in US, and I hope that some of my teachers are watching this because then I'll get A+. But there is this company in US which is called DoorDash. Have you guys heard about it?
Don't think so.
It's something similar to Wolt or Uber Foods, I would say more. But essentially, it is like a moving company in a sense that you as a driver in your car or on your scooter download an app, this DoorDash app, and you get assigned a job that you are supposed to deliver something from point A to point B, and then you get paid for it. So essentially the same like Wolt, this gig-based economy where you get paid by the algorithm. And the way that the algorithm worked was that it started off this sort of a bidding war between the delivery drivers. So it would start off on $2 and send the request to all of the drivers in the area. And those ones that would take it, they would get it for $2. If you would not take it for $2, then it would increase up until whatever amount. This as a marketplace is not very good for you as the delivery driver. However, it is very good for the consumer, right? Because you get a delivery for $2. Where am I going with this? As you might know, back in the old days, there were these things called unions in some companies where workers would unite to ask for raise in their wages. They would get the bargaining power of the workers. They would be more to negotiate. They would get better terms. What has started in USA is that in some cities, the users of the Dash app, they have made themselves into a union and they have started to deliberately decline offers that were below $7. So they would all together jointly decline offers from the app until they would get to a threshold. And they have essentially became a union that started to negotiate with an algorithm. And that is one of the funny things. And I believe this is something that we might be also able to see in future in Denmark, where people might just start to revolt against Wolt. That was a good pun. And you might be able to see students that are deliberately declining orders until they get to a certain threshold that they want, even though there are no real people that they are negotiating with this. Anyways, funny things happening in this crazy connected world. Another question that we have is how expensive is rent in Denmark, especially in Copenhagen, considering an average income? Michael is again from Copenhagen, so he's probably the most qualified to answer this question, or more or less Copenhagen, right?
Yes, I'm from Roskilde, which is like half an hour by train. But I have many friends that live in Copenhagen, and that very much depends. There is no universal answer for that. I have friends that live on 20 square meters for 7,000 a month. I have friends that have 100 or almost 200 square meters in the city center of Copenhagen for like 10,000, and they share it with 5 other people. But I would say that also reacting to natural portals like s.bk, I mean, I tried that once, and I actually got to one place through the waiting lists. But yeah, I mean, more or less in Denmark, it's you need to have a contact to someone to find a good place, because the things you see, for example, on the market, they're either expensive or in the middle of nowhere, or they're just not good.
Yeah, this is one of the tips that we can already give you for when you will be moving to Denmark, and you might already know whether you were accepted to your university. Likely not, because it's just the beginning of April. I don't know what am I talking about. But anyways, there are these companies or services where you can sign up yourself to, and you get a place on a waiting list for a commune houses or houses owned or subsidized by government. So the rents are much cheaper. If you want to read more about those, then definitely go to studentsralliga.dk and search for these accommodation and housing subsidies in one of the blocks. And what can happen is that you are able to then, for example, get a flat like Michael was talking about for 10,000 in the middle of Copenhagen. That happens, but it's not that often. What happens is usually that people are signing up for these flats, and the waiting times are ridiculously long. So sometimes what Danish people do is, as soon as their kids turn 14 and receive a CPR number, they already sign them up for some apartment in the middle of Copenhagen, hoping that by the time they are 40, they can get the apartment. To give you an idea of how crazy is that. We should now talk about things such as bike. I have no idea why am I phrasing it like that. But one of the most common ways of transport in Denmark is to cycle. In Denmark, we have an amazing cycling infrastructure. I believe Radim could be talking about that for hours. Now, the big question is, should you bring your own bike or should you buy a bike here in Denmark? And what are your best options? And also, is it safe to cycle in big cities? What are some things that you should maybe do and learn before you start to cycle in a big city? So, Radim, could you tell us a bit about how is it to cycle in Denmark? Because you are a fan of cycling. You've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, first of all, I think I should mention that I was blown away by the infrastructure. Like, next to every single road, there is a cycling path, which is super safe. On the cycling path, of course, there are no cars coming. And with the bike, when it comes to importing bike, in the city, you should not like bring an expensive bike. I brought one because I was keeping it at my place and I was like road cycling in my free time. But if you go just in a store and back, it's quite good idea to bring just some, not to bring, but preferably buy some bike that is like a crap, but it's cheap. So you can just leave it in front of the store, because bike theft can eventually happen. And then when it comes to rules on the road, you should check them out before just doing some random stuff because I got used to some rules that they were in my country, but they are not applicable here. And I was crossing the, let's say, like the cross sections. I was just going like an idiot, and I didn't even know that, because in my country it would be completely fine to go on the road just next, like between cars, and just turn left, cross the way for the cars. No one would like show me a middle finger. But here it might eventually happen, because you cannot do it here, and the rules are a bit different. So you should just check those rules in advance before you get on the road, so you're not like a dangerous, crazy driver on a bike that just don't know the rule.
There is a great video about this from one guy in Copenhagen. It was called something like "How to Cycle in Denmark" or "How to Cycle in Copenhagen." We actually wanted to make a video about it, but then we saw his video, and it's just so good that there is nothing to add to it. So if you want to learn about how to the basics of cycling, then definitely check that one out. But also, if you'll come to big city on a bike, then really just take a minute to look around and see how everyone is acting, because it is a bit crazy, and it's not like in our countries where when you are on a bike, you are a rare anomaly and you can do whatever, and everyone is respecting you. Here in Denmark, it's a bit different. Everyone is expecting you to behave according to rules of the road. So that's something. So definitely get a secondhand bike, unless you want it to get stolen. If yours is nice. But then again, if you get a place where you get some bike shed and you can keep it safe, then yeah. Now we have a question about, I'm not sure if it's going to load completely. Yeah, okay. So how long does it take to process the CPR number, e-box, NemKonto, and all of these things? I can tell you from my own experience, first and foremost, those can be done online, and that is what is happening these days, that you are meant to do those online. But from our own experience, it usually took us between 1 and 3 months in a majority of cases to get these things sorted. Because they are coming in waves, then some of the things might arrive before some of the other things arrive. If I'm not mistaken, the CPR number is one of the first things that will arrive when you move to Denmark, which will then allow you to open a bank account, which will then get you to NemKonto, which will then get you to do the rest of the things. And for some reason, even though Denmark is very well digitalized and federal, some of the things are still coming in a post box. At least that was the case. That was my case, when some of the parts of this great mysterious puzzle of documents comes through a mailbox. And one of the things that you can take away from this is to put your name on a mailbox, because if you do not have a name on your mailbox, chances are it might not be delivered. And if it is not delivered, then it might delay the whole process 3 or 4 weeks. Also make sure that you spell your name correctly, because if you, for example, get a wrong name, then again, 3 or 4 weeks goes by. Again, we have made a blog about this. You do not need to have a CPR number to start working, for example. There is a blog we have wrote about this. It's again on Students at DK. It's called How to Start Working in Denmark Before Your University Does. There is a thing called text number that you can get if you want to be working before you get your CPR number. Otherwise, you have to wait about 2 or 3 months. Was it the same situation for you guys?
Maybe I would like to just jump in right now, because I was so dumb that I didn't even manage to put a correct address on my CPR, but somehow they figured it out and they just sent it on the right address, and they wrote down the right address. I was really surprised, because I put there some kind of random address. I don't know how it happened, but I didn't know where I'm living because I was staying on the Airbnb before, and I just put there like, oh yeah, I might live there. So I put there an address, and they found out somehow where am I, and they put on a CPR my right address. So I was really, really surprised how smart they are. But I think the CPR took maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then it depends like which bank account you want to open, or which institution you choose, and so on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now we have a very quick question that Michael is able to answer. And is it easy for nurses to move to Denmark at the moment, Michael?
Actually, the moving itself is not the biggest problem. The problem is working as a nurse. Because if you want to work as a nurse in Denmark, you're going to need a Danish nursing certificate. So if you're a nurse that got education in another part of the world, in another country, you can't work as a nurse in Denmark. This process is quite hard and it takes a lot of time because for that certificate you have to be fluent in Danish. So no, it is not that easy.
Okay. Now a quick question from Mattis about, can you do something to get a CPR number or any of those things before arriving to Denmark? That is a very legit question, and unfortunately, more often than not, you cannot, because what will happen is once you want to, and Denisa want to add to it, but from my experience, once you will want to do something with the CPR number, they will tell you to wait until your university handles it for you. But if you start very well ahead of time, meaning maybe now, then yes, it might be possible. Denisa?
Yes, that's also what I wanted to say. That if you you need an address in Denmark in order to get the CPR number, like we mentioned before. But once you have an address, even if your university doesn't start yet, so let's say you arrive to Denmark in July and then you start only in August or September, you can apply yourself for a CPR number. But then you have to go through this process just by yourself instead of waiting for the university to do it for you. But it is possible once you have an address in Denmark, basically.
Yeah, but then a good question is, like, what is your reason for having the CPR number? Because as we talked before, if you are able to work even without it, so going through the hassle might not be even worth it, because you can also open a bank account without having a CPR number. And then once you have the CPR number, then your tax number from that you have previously made will just be translated into the CPR number. And yes, Michael?
Actually, you have to have a CPR number if you plan to stay in Denmark over 3 months period.
Good addition.
Yes, I mean you are legally obliged to get a CPR number and to get the EU residency certificate if you are from the EU. If you are outside from the EU, you have to have it beforehand, and that might be a lot of time, and it's quite expensive if you are outside from the outside of the EU. Then you have to do it via the embassy. But if you are planning to, as I said, if you plan to stay in Denmark over 90 days, you have to get CPR number.
Okay, that's a good thing to know. Now, do you guys have any tips for people that might be thinking about getting into the culture, or into the Danish culture, and they might need some movie or some podcast to watch? Do you guys have any recommendations for movies that will introduce people to the Danish culture?
Okay, I'm not sure how related is it to Danish culture, but it's a Danish movie that I saw, and I have to admit I really enjoyed. I believe so. It's called Jagten, the Hunt, and it stars Mads Mikkelsen, probably the most famous Danish actor. And I don't want to spoil too much, for those that would be interested to see it, but basically it's sort of it's over a story where, let's call it like one little life from the kid, sort of like a twist guy life around, and afterwards it only goes downhill. It's not exactly like a relaxing movie. You don't watch it to get positive or get optimistic. It actually, you ended up feeling quite the opposite. But generally the movie is really nice.
That pretty much encapsulates the atmosphere in Denmark. You don't come here to be happy and positive. You come
Exactly.
just for the opposite.
No. Well, especially during autumn or winter, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, those 2 months, or 3 months or 4 months, I don't know. Those periods of time when it gets dark at 3:30 and the sun doesn't rise up until like 8:30. Those are the days when Denmark is not as great as you might see in movies. So guys, I think we are slowly approaching the end of this live stream. Now you have finally the time. What am I talking about? Now you have finally the time and opportunity to ask some more questions. If you have some in the comments, we have probably done a pretty terrible job at covering all of the questions, but Madara has prepared some questions for from the audience, and also we have some recommendations for movies from the viewers. Thank you very much for the recommendations. There is a recent movie called Trug with Mads Mikkelsen. Pretty good one. I think it's also on Apple TV, so that's definitely worth watching. And Rita is a good show to watch on Netflix. We'll take your word
I
for
can
it.
second that.
Okay. What is
It's
it
a good
about?
one. It's about a teacher at a primary school. And it's
okay.
it's about the challenges in her work, and like it's funny. It's a sitcom. It's not really a sitcom. It's kind of comedy-ish.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think it's also a good series to watch if you want to find out how the Danish people live and how the relationships in the family are like, and how they communicate with others, and how formal they are when they speak, and so on. So I think that's actually a good show to watch to find out more about the culture. I also watch it.
Okay. Well, then thank you for your recommendation. Then we have something for people to watch.
And also, if you are into politics and want to learn a bit more about Danish politics, I can really recommend a series called Borgen, Borgen. That is about Danish. It's kind of like Danish House of Cards on a budget. So yeah, I can really recommend that.
So it's like there's no intrigue and everybody is nice to each other, right? So
there are intrigues and people are not very nice to each other, but yeah, I mean, it's Danish, right?
Spoil it.
We have one more question from Gustavo. Let's just try to see. Yeah. He is thinking about moving to Denmark for a PhD. He's now in Portugal finishing his master's. What should I know about being a PhD student? This is actually a very good question, and I believe in upcoming weeks we will hopefully answer it, because we have planned to have a interview with a PhD student here in Denmark that will be able to answer this question much better than me, because none of us is a PhD student yet. So we'll see how that works out. But definitely Denmark is an amazing place for doing your PhD. If you are able to, then definitely get into it, because I know that the salaries are really good, and the environment is also very well nurtured in the universities. So definitely. So Madara, let's see, what are the things.
All right, so
People wish
we
they
actually asked on Instagram and Facebook, for those who already are studying and living in Denmark, what is it that you wished you knew before you moved to Denmark? So one of the things was the Facebook Marketplace, and it's
Madara,
definitely
just a quick note. Could you maybe put it on full screen?
Oh yeah, of course.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
awesome.
Yes, so about Facebook Marketplace, and it's definitely true that you can find a lot of good things for much cheaper price rather than buying things completely new. And we are definitely gonna make a post about this, to which groups you should join to find second-hand things. And one of them is, for example, we use Aarhus, which also will be mentioned in our next post. And one of the other things that was said, that it's so expensive to bring a car to Denmark, and we also tackle this question, and which is very true. And finding a job is not as easy as the low unemployment rate makes it look like. And as we mentioned before, it very much depends, and it definitely is much more difficult at the moment because of the COVID. But you just try your best, and when you actually are here, you will just grab all your motivation and try to network, which is very important in Denmark. Communicate with your new classmates and try to see what they know about and what is the current situation. But also we asked question to those who want to come to Denmark. So what is it they want to know? And what is the average part-time earning? So maybe you can guys share your experience. What was the average part-time earning you earned?
I thought that you wanted to say, like, maybe you guys can show your bank accounts.
No, it's fine.
I think the average is about 125 Danish kronas, I would say, maybe 130, depends.
Yeah.
Denisa, yes?
Yeah, I would say that 125, 130 is a good salary, but you might be not so lucky to get a much lower one, like 95 krona per hour, or some of them even lower. But yeah, I think average, I would say around 110, and the other is, and then you can get more of so that's good. But it depends very much on the job as well. And about that, sometimes you might find out that for a job in an office as a student assistant, you might get paid less than you would get paid in a cleaning company.
That is actually very much true. Michael, you wanted to say?
Yes. Also, what is pretty common and which is a positive, even though you're part-time, you also gonna get like a savings for a pension, which if you work in the private sector, that might be taken down from your salary. But if you work in the public sector, then it's like you're gonna get your salary plus your pension. So in that manner, it's good, what I say. And I would also second the opinion about those 100 to 140 per hour is kind of the average.
Yes, I would also like to add that don't forget that you can actually increase your earning per hour. If you have worked more than a year, just don't forget to ask your boss, can you increase it? Because I worked for 2 years in a company and it totally just didn't come to my mind at all to increase it. So only after 2 years, I just asked them to do so, and they did. So every year you can ask for increase in your pay, which is totally fine because it has to be on your own initiative. And yes, well, we talked about the pets, and will it be harder or expensive if I will bring my cat? And I think it very much depends, because we haven't done really the research what you should do if you bring the cat from other country, but definitely it's probably not as difficult as Magda mentioned about the dog.
I would maybe also mention that if you go, it might be a typo, and instead of cat, it could be car, because it's right next to each other. But in both cases, yes,
yes.
It might be easier to bring your car than your cat.
That's a good observation skill there, Michael. But in both cases, it's expensive. It's an expensive country. But whatever makes you happy, if it's your car, if it's your cat.
And a more personal question: how did you feel when you arrived? So how did you guys feel when you first time arrived to Denmark?
I felt happy.
That was the luckiest day of my life.
Yep, it was the luckiest day of my life, but at that time I didn't know. So I remember for the first hour, I felt this like dread, like going over me, because I remember just, my dad just dropped me here in Denmark, like, see you in half a year, and I was like, okay, and what do I do now, And well, I had to figure it out somehow, and well, luckily, after 6 years, I managed somehow. So
it only took 6 years, but hey,
welcome. It took 6 years. Exactly.
Welcome among the group of friends. Welcome, you made it.
I was just walking down the street at the first week and just smiling on everything and everyone, because I was just so happy to be here. But then I kind of sobered up as I had problems with my residence permit and CPR number and bank account. But still, I love it here, and still 2 years after I moved here, or 2.5 years, I think it's awesome.
So definitely, if you guys get a chance to come to study in Denmark, do not let that opportunity pass, and do not get discouraged by us talking about how expensive it is and how difficult it is, because life is difficult and expensive no matter where you are. It's just about what you make out of it. So I would like to end it on this note, and thank you all guys for joining us today, especially the team of students of Avogate. I'm very happy that you guys could be here today, and we are all going to see you next week, where we are going to be talking about a topic of something we need to still figure out. But we'll keep you updated on social media once we figure it out, and we'll also let you ask some more questions. Then we promise to be more funny next time, and also get you maybe some more information. But we'll see. We'll keep on practicing, and together we'll somehow make it through the pandemic, and hopefully at the end of it, we'll see you all live somewhere physically where you can see our beautiful faces, not through the webcam, but hopefully physically. So we'll see how that one goes. But until then, we'll see you on Facebook and YouTube next week, the same time. Stay awesome, stay safe, get tested every other day or whatever is the regulation right now. And stay awesome. Do you guys have any more remarks that you wanted to add? No?
I guess good night. Or
All right. Good night, guys, and take care.